Understanding the disadvantages of using a VPN and appreciating what it can do and can't do is a crucial part of keeping yourself safe online. In this follow-up video, we will go even further in detail about this subject. A good VPN hides your IP address, encrypts your web browsing activity, and lets you unblock websites that are censored in your location. But a VPN won't solve all of your problems. It's important to understand the limitations and disadvantages of using a VPN in order to keep yourself safe online. Despite the clear benefits, a VPN isn't a universal solution for all internet privacy issues. Thinking that it could put you at risk. A VPN will not make you completely anonymous. Even the best VPNs can't guarantee your anonymity online. Your browsing behavior can still reveal your true identity in ways that your VPN service cannot control. If you are logged into a Google or Facebook account, a VPN won't be able to stop those companies from monitoring your activity. There is also a collection of techniques that advertisers use to track you across the internet. These include web trackers and cookies. Websites use trackers and cookies to tailor their service to your specific needs. They store details about you, such as your company name or your name and geographic location, and can be used to identify you despite a VPN connection. Browser fingerprinting. Most browsers reveal small pieces of information unique to you and your session. Authorities and advertisers can collate this information to build a fingerprint that identifies your online presence even when you're using a VPN. So, in short, VPNs cannot guarantee 100% protection, guys. Even though VPNs are often marketed as the solution to all your internet security needs, the reality is much more complex. Although close, a VPN alone isn't an almighty magical shield. Many people use VPN services to hide their IP address and location, but there is another way you can be identified and tracked online. That is through browser fingerprinting. Browser fingerprinting allows websites and other services to immediately identify your computer, even if you are taking several measures to anonymize your connection. Whenever you go online, your computer or device provides the sites you visit with highly specific information about your operating system, settings, and even hardware. The use of this information to identify and track your online is known as device or browser fingerprinting. As browsers become increasingly entwined with the operating system, many unique details and preferences can be exposed through your browser. The sum total of these outputs can be used to render a unique fingerprint for tracking and identification purposes. Browser fingerprinting was first developed as a security measure to allow websites to know whether someone was impersonating another user. However, the technology has been used for other, more nefarious purposes in more recent years. So how does it work? The answer lies in the way the internet works. No two computers are 100% identical, and websites need to know certain information to ensure that the website displays correctly. So far, so good. However, there's a downside to this. When all these dozens of factors are taken into account, your browser is most likely totally unique. Your browser fingerprint doesn't just include information about the browser itself, it also includes information about your phone or computer. This means you can potentially be tracked even if you're using several precautions such as a VPN. What makes a browser fingerprint unique? As we mentioned, this fingerprint includes information about your browser and your computer. Here's some information that makes up your browser fingerprint. In addition to headers, your fingerprint includes the build ID of your browser, which tells the website exactly which version your browser you're using. Your fingerprint also includes a list of plugins supported by your browser. For example, if your browser supports JavaScript but not Flash, that information will be included. Various ad preferences are also part of your fingerprint. These include your cookies, settings, do not track preferences, and whether or not ad block is installed. Finally, your fingerprint contains two different images. One is rendered by your browser's HTML canvas element, and the other is rendered with WebGL. Since different computers will generate slightly different images, these images can help identify your computer. As already mentioned, your browser fingerprint includes information about your phone or computer as well as the browser itself. This includes the audio and video formats that are supported as well as what fonts are installed. In addition, websites also collect information on your time zone as well as your monitor resolution and color depth. This information is needed to serve you the correct content, but it can also be used to identify you. Why is browser fingerprinting being used? Now, we know what goes into a browser fingerprint. It's time to talk about how it might be used. Preventing financial fraud. Browser fingerprinting has been used for years by the financial sector. It's used by almost every online banking service. By fingerprinting your device, the bank can determine whether a browser session has been hijacked and shut down fraudulent transactions. Similarly, browser fingerprinting is often used to prevent credit card fraud. For example, if you use your credit card online, a website can identify when it's suddenly being used on a different device. Preventing e-commerce fraud. Similar to preventing credit card fraud, browser fingerprinting can be used to combat a variety of e-commerce fraud techniques. Wire transfers and other payment methods typically come from a predictable source, along with other factors. A sudden change of device can indicate fraud. Now, let's cover some bad reasons. Analytics and ad tracking. Our digital economy depends on online advertising. The good news is that you can get all kinds of content for free online. The bad news is that you might not want to be tracked this way. Ad services used to track customers via cookies, but many people have gotten savvy. With so many people disabling cookies on their devices, advertisers needed a new way to track individual customers. Many of them have turned to browser fingerprinting as an alternative. By far, the most popular use of browser fingerprinting is for advertising. Advertising is the backbone of just about every free website these days. You don't need to pay for your Facebook profile, and that's because Facebook made billions from ads alone. In many cases, such huge figures are largely thanks to browser fingerprinting. By tracking your browsing activity, advertisers can learn a lot about you, your interests, dislikes, habits, contacts, schedules, location, and other personal data are reflected by your browsing history. But if an ad provider needed people to voluntarily hand over their browser history, they'd go out of business. By using browser fingerprinting, they can reliably track you around the web without you ever knowing. And once your activity log is in their hands, all it takes is a bit of analysis to figure out who you are. Then you can be served with personalized ads, which you're more likely to click on than irrelevant ads. And more clicks mean more money, especially when millions of others are clicking too. Hacking and malware. Security researchers find new software exploits every day. Web browser vulnerabilities are common, as are operating system security holes. Usually, companies are quick to patch security vulnerabilities with updates, but users who don't install those updates and continue running affected versions of software are still at risk. Browser fingerprinting provides an easy, invisible way for websites to learn your browser and operating system versions, but it makes it equally easier for hackers to learn those too. All a hacker needs to do is set up a website with fingerprinting script, then scan the results for anyone still using a vulnerable software version. And voila, they've got a list of targets, IP addresses, and from there, they can steal data, spread malware, and cause all manner of digital damage. So guys, that's it for part 2. Make sure to stay tuned for the third part, which will cover ways to mask and protect your browser fingerprints, and in return, restore your online anonymity.